Hey, that's Zach. I'm JR. I said that right this time because the first time I did it, I did not say it right. And we are going to be talking today about two programs, obviously in the Midwest, Notre Dame and Penn State. Notre Dame making some big news. Pete Beck, Bevacqua, Bevacqua.
Bevacqua.
Yeah, it's a fun name to say if you can say it. If you can't say it like me, which can't say hardly any names, then you don't have very much fun saying it. So we are going to talk about Notre Dame, and then Matt Campbell. Thank the Lord, Penn State hired somebody with an easy name to say. Really appreciate that. I would have gotten in so much trouble with Koloski, Kalinowski.
Can I'm not even gonna go there. Move on. Let's just keep moving. Keep moving.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about it all, and we've got the one, the only Zach Guggenheim with us once again. How you doing, Zach?
Good. So before we get into it, one of my teammates, Laura Ebersol, if you're listening, which you're probably not, but your husband probably is,
Shout out to
has
Laura.
great sponsorship idea for the whiteout. By the whiteout sponsored by Campbell Soup.
There we go. I love it. Can they
Yeah.
can they put something green and floating in the middle of their soups for like
Cream of broccoli.
there you go. Put some broccoli in the middle there.
Broccoli cheddar soup.
Presented by cream of broccoli / broccoli cheddar soup. Just put the cheddar under the broccoli and then nobody sees it.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's good.
All right. Well, let's talk about these two things because they are very interesting to talk about, and I'm looking forward to getting Zach's opinions on this. So, Notre Dame is making a lot of noise out there right now. But before we start this, Zach, I do want to say Pete is a Pop-Tart fan. I would like to confess I am also a Pop-Tart fan. He said that he does like Pop Tarts. They were going to the Pop Tart Bowl. They're not going to go now. Zach, are you a Pop Tart fan as well?
I like them once in a great while. My stomach doesn't necessarily like them as much as 10-year-old Zack used to, but
Fair.
my kids love them. My kids
Yeah.
love them.
Kids got iron stomachs. They're fine.
Yeah, until they don't.
Well, that's true. Favorite Pop Tart flavor? Did you have a favorite Pop Tart flavor growing up?
Oh, so my favorite to this day, and I think it's like low key underrated, frosted cherry.
That is a good one. Yeah, I was always a hot fudge sundae guy. Toast the
There
hot
you
fudge sundae. Then you get like a toasted. It was good. It was good. Anyway, people aren't watching this video to figure out our Pop Tart cravings. They are watching this video to figure out, is Notre Dame going to be leaving the ACC? And if they do, could they find themselves on over to the Big Ten? Well, Pete Bevacqua, I'm saying it right there. He went on the Dan Patrick show to talk about how Notre Dame did not make the college football playoffs, and he wanted to say that he is not upset with the teams in the ACC. He's not upset with the teams that made the college football playoffs over Notre Dame, but he does have an axe to grind with the college football playoff rankings, and he does have an axe to grind with the ACC. So we're going to focus more on the ACC here. We'll talk a little bit about the rankings too, but Pete said some pretty big things. One of the biggest things he said was, we were mystified by the actions of the conference, talking about the ACC, to attack their biggest partner really in football. They have certainly done permanent damage to the relationship between the conference and Notre Dame. Zach, that does not sound good at all. What are your thoughts about Pete saying that the ACC has done permanent damage between them and Notre Dame?
So a lot of people are dunking on Notre Dame for this like wave of press releases. Essentially, they shouldn't,
Join the
because
conference. Join the conference. Am I doing it right? Join the conference.
Well, and that's not untrue, right? And we'll talk about that. They should join a conference. And the ACC screwed them. Now, I don't think they intentionally screwed them. I think their lack of foresight screwed them. Because what did we say last night or 2 nights ago, based on when this is being released? if the ACC puts Miami in the championship game and Miami wins, you know who's in the playoff today? Notre Dame.
Notre Dame and Miami.
So, yeah, it kind of is the ACC's fault.
Well,
Now,
I think.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I think one of the biggest things he was getting at was, yes, I think the conference championship game is important, but I think one of the biggest things he was getting at was it was clear in the ACC social media posting, what they were showing on ACC Network, that they were vying for Miami to get into the playoffs, and the number one argument that Miami had was not over Alabama. Alabama had a better strength of schedule, right? Alabama had better wins than Miami. So their argument wasn't necessarily with Alabama. Their argument was with Notre Dame, saying we are 2 spots behind Notre Dame. We beat Pitt, common opponents. We beat them by more than what Notre Dame did, and we beat Notre Dame on the field together, right? And so there was the one day when I think they showed Miami Notre Dame like 5 times in a row, 10 times in a row, something like that. It was a Tuesday, all leading up to the college football playoff rankings. So I think Pete has a lot to be upset about here with the ACC. I do think the ACC has kind of dragged Notre Dame, but at the same time, I also kind of understand where the ACC is coming from here to say we're going to back our actual conference partner and not just the partner, the person that has an agreement with us that they're going to play a few of our teams every single year, and also a partner that went out and screwed us just recently by creating a home and home with Clemson for years to come, trying to, make something more with one of the current members that, I'm sure the ACC was thinking they could have, come to us and played these games more. So I think it's a messy relationship between the two. I understand why Notre Dame is upset. And I think at the end of the day, because neither of them are really trying to work it out, I don't think that Notre Dame is going to be in the ACC in the near future. What about you?
Well, I mean, the fact is Clemson and Florida State want to get out of that relationship too. So the ACC is not well run. And listen, it makes total sense for the ACC to back Miami over Notre Dame. I don't think that's the problem. It's the way they did it, which I feel like it's the same thing with the college football playoff. I think they got it right, but the way they did it was just atrocious. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I think 2 things can be true. The ACC should have backed Miami. And also, the way they did it was not helpful if you want to maintain a good relationship with someone who brings you a lot of revenue and a lot of eyeballs. And so I get why the ACC did it, just like I get why the college football playoff did what they did. They weren't wrong to do what they did. They were absolutely wrong in how.
I would say they were wrong in putting Alabama above Notre Dame.
Well, that's true too.
I don't think they were wrong to put Miami above Notre Dame. I think they were wrong by trying to find a way to protect Alabama after Alabama blew a 17-point lead against Auburn. They say, oh, they went for it on 4th down. Look how impressive this is. And that whole, and Pete kind of brought that up a little bit in his, or maybe it was Dan Patrick, one of those two, and the thing brought that up. And I don't think it's just the ACC here. I do think that Jim Phillips is most likely seeing the ACC as an attachment of ESPN, because you said it on the show when we talked about the rankings and if Duke and Miami would get in. I predicted neither would get in, and you said one of those 2 teams is getting in. The ESPN is going to find a way. ESPN is not blatantly biased for the ACC like they are for the SEC, as example of Alabama and moving them up over Notre Dame for blowing a 17-point lead and going for it on 4th down. But it's still one of the main partners of ESPN. Yep. The Big 12's main TV partner is no longer ESPN. The Big Ten's main TV partner has not been ESPN for a while now. Who is ESPN going to back, and who is ESPN going to give ACC Network to talk about for some time? Yes, they can talk about bowl games, but people want to tune in to hear about college football playoff teams and not, oh, how's this team going to do without their starting quarterback, starting running back, starting left tackle, and starting linebacker, right?
Yeah.
So I
Well,
feel
and
like go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, I think there is a reality that Notre Dame does bring more eyeballs than any team in the ACC, regardless of the fact that they're an NBC. They're mostly NBC. So like that's not to say that you're wrong in that, but there is a reality that Notre Dame is one of the biggest brands. And if they're in the playoff, like I think ESPN wants Notre Dame in the playoff more years than not. But at the same time, and it's this conflict of interest that gets, I think, people like us frustrated by the bias, is they want their product to be more prominent than Fox's product, than NBC's product, and then CBS's product. And so this is in a sense, long-term gain over short-term pain to not have Notre Dame. And they're going to get eyeballs on this thing anyway, right?
I would go, sorry.
Like Miami's going to bring eyeballs. Ohio State's going to bring eyeballs. Like Oregon's going to bring, like they're going to have a superior product regardless if Notre Dame's in it. They'll lose some eyeballs, but they won't lose a ton.
And I would say that ESPN was most likely banking on, well, even if Notre Dame doesn't make the playoffs, they're still going to play in a bowl game. And guess who has the majority of bowl games that they can play during the day, during holiday break when everybody's at home? ESPN. So who's going to do better numbers in a bowl game? Miami, another disappointing season, missing the playoffs, or Notre Dame? Who's going to give us something to talk about on our ACC network? Notre Dame, who's with NBC, or Miami, right? Like, so that's kind of the way I look at it, is like, I hear what you're saying, and I do think that there is a thought process of that. However, I do think that they were probably also thinking, hey, even if Notre Dame doesn't make the playoffs, we can still get them in a bowl game. And guess where we can advertise? I think Cover 3 was talking about this a little bit earlier. Guess where we can advertise all of our college football playoff stuff? On Notre Dame. And I think that's one of the big reasons why Notre Dame decided, look, we're not going to play this game. You didn't put us in the playoffs, and we're not going to go play a bowl game. Do I like it? No. I want to see Notre Dame play a bowl game. Do I get it? Heck yeah, I do. Same thing with Indiana. Do I like that Indiana doesn't play a tough out-of-conference schedule? No. Do I understand why they do it? Heck yeah, I do. Because it makes sense, and it's been proven it works out better for you to do it that way.
We need a commissioner. We need to change.
We need something.
Yeah.
We need something so that ESPN isn't running things. And I think that Notre Dame is seeing that right now. And I think the majority of college football fan base is seeing that after they saw the blatant bias for Alabama, who is the only team that has ever in the college football, well, I shouldn't say ever, like the past few years in the college football playoffs, I think it's since 2021, lost a conference championship game and not dropped a spot. Which is crazy.
Yeah. Media companies owning sports, not good.
Yeah.
Just, it's not good. Like the NFL, like there's a reason why the NFL has a commissioner, why the NBA has a commissioner, why all these leagues.
It's why they have all their media rights consolidated, right? So that way the commissioner and the league can sell the media rights together. But you can't do that in college football. Like, I know everybody has this idea of like a 70, 80 team super league. Folks, we can't even get people to sign the Score Act stuff. Like, Cody Campbell's out here trying to get the Score Act stuff not signed at all. I mean, it's not exactly the Score Act stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Like the binding agreement of the CSC together. And you got Cody Campbell out here telling the entire Big 12, no, don't sign it, right? We can't even get the Big 10 to get it in on an investment deal together. How are we going to get all of college football to agree on all of their media rights deals consolidated into one place? It's going to take some serious authority for that to happen.
Yeah. You know who could have done this, but they abdicated all their authority? The NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
They stink.
They do. Last question.
Why do I not have my shirt? I need my shirt. Give me my shirt.
Last question for you, and then we'll get out of here. If Notre Dame does leave the ACC, do they go to the Big Ten right away? Do they go eventually? What are your thoughts on Notre Dame to the Big Ten?
So I think they will still be slow to join a conference because what happened that's gonna start taking place next year. They're guaranteed a spot if they're in the top 12. And we're still in an era right now where if you whine and complain enough, you get what you want. And for the most part, right? Like, and we see that most with the SEC. We see that with Greg Sankey. We want 7. He's really saying that so he gets 5. Like, I know that like he is really petitioning for 7 in the playoff, but like what he's trying to do is he's actually overselling so that it seems reasonable that they have 5 teams in. That's what he's doing. You just whine and complain enough, you get what you want. And guess what? Notre Dame, if they whine and complain enough, I know people won't like it, but they'll get what they want because they're Notre Dame. And even though they have to fight the media narrative at ESPN, they still bring too much money and too many eyeballs for them to ignore them completely. I mean, it's similar to Ohio State, if we're being honest. Like Ohio, like they can slander Ohio State all they want, but if Ohio State ever says you will never broadcast a game that we're in again, like we're going to boycott the playoff, forget that. I mean, they're too valuable a brand, and same thing with Notre Dame. So I don't think, like, I think Notre Dame still holds some cards, but I do think it will lend itself at some point to them seeing that joining a conference is more attractive. And the Big Ten's the best landing spot.
Yeah, they're not going to go to the SEC because of ESPN. They're not going to go to the Big 12. There's not enough money to be made there. I think they're going to go to the Big 10 eventually. What I think will probably happen is I think that they will probably try to do it without the ACC for a year or two, whether that's this season or the next season. I think they'll probably try to do it at some point. And then once they are not able to schedule things out well enough, they'll probably do it, they'll probably go to a conference. And I don't think the Big Ten's going to do a scheduling agreement. I don't think they're going to get anything like what they had with the ACC, where you move all your Olympic sports over to one conference and then you have a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten. I primarily think it's going to happen because scheduling is just going to be so hard for Notre Dame. I do think that they have a bit of a lifeline with the SEC saying you need to have at least one out-of-conference game against a Power 5 or Power 4 or Notre Dame. So I think that will help. But I don't think you're going to get 5 different SEC teams playing you every year. You might get 2 or 3, but even if you're not playing USC, if the ACC is, putting you out and doesn't want to play you very much, you don't have them. You have Clemson, a few SEC teams. The Big Ten doesn't want to play you, and they don't want to play the Big Ten, right? They have rivalries in the Big Ten with Michigan and USC. I think they'll probably end up playing USC. Maybe I shouldn't say I think they will, because they will probably play it at the beginning of the season. But we'll have to see what happens there. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, so we'll see. I think all of this will eventually lead to Notre Dame is not able to put together a good enough schedule. Number one, to be respected in college, not to be respected, but to have like a good strength of schedule in college football. And number two, because it won't satisfy NBC for them to play a bunch of home games. And that's the other piece of it too. NBC only makes money on home games. So they can't go out there and schedule a bunch of home and homes. They just don't have enough money to do that. They got to play 7, 8, sometimes 9 home games a year in order to make up that much money. I don't think you're going to get a whole bunch of Big Ten teams that are going to bring you a whole bunch of eyeballs to say, yeah, sure, we'll come play you for, but only at home for you twice. Like, that's not going to happen.
No.
And the teams it would happen with, I don't think it'll bring you enough eyeballs. So, any other thoughts?
No, I think this was a seismic decision to leave them out. And while I hated it, how it went down, again, it was the right move by the committee. I want to keep emphasizing that. It was the right decision, terrible execution. But I think the ramifications of the terrible way they did it actually might be really good for the sport and for Notre Dame and the Big Ten moving forward.
You're saying right move to put Miami above them?
Yes.
Do you think it was the right move to have Alabama in over them?
I don't know. I think if you're going based off resume, Yes. I think if you're going off of who looked better, no. But I subscribe more to resume anyway. So I don't like Alabama. I would have Notre Dame's like the third best team according to Sager and FPI. So like
Hmm.
I'll just say it. I want Ohio State to play Alabama. I did not want them to play Notre Dame.
Hmm.
But like if this is a tournament based on resume and qualifications, like Bama had the better resume. As much as we think that some of their wins were overinflated, like every metric in terms of strength of schedule would favor uh, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the loss to Florida State probably needs to be established more. You
Yeah,
lost to two playoff teams and you lost to a 5-7 ACC team that's not going to a bowl game.
yeah. It's
So
it's neither. I'll put it this way: neither team like should be sad that they're out. Like if Bama was out, it's like okay, don't lose 3 games, don't lose to Florida State. For Notre
mhm,
Dame, it's like don't lose your 2 marquee matchups.
right,
Like
yeah,
so, it's if that's what we're debating, like if we were debating Texas Tech over Oregon, that would be a lot more painful. But we're not. We're talking about two teams. One that's their resume is flawed, and the other one their team is flawed.
hmm.
Like, eh, okay, I'm not. I'm not. I'm losing tears for the Notre Dame fans. I'm not losing tears over the fact that Notre Dame is out.
Well said. Well said. All right, let's move on. We will get to now. Matt Campbell has been introduced as the new head coach of Penn State. Official opening press conference today at Penn State. Zach, I said a hire. I loved this hire from the beginning.
Yeah.
Best hire from the beginning. After hearing Matt Campbell talk, after hearing him, speak, and a lot of it's kind of coach speak stuff. I get that, right? Intensity, toughness, stuff like that. But just some of the stuff that he talks about, he values, and it's not just he talks about he values, but he's backed it up in his coaching career with what he values as well. It aligns with Penn State. The people that continue to say, "Oh man, Matt Campbell, all he cares about is stupid things and not enough with Penn State." It's not true. Okay, don't listen to the national media on this. This was an excellent hire. This was the best hire of the cycle, in my opinion. And I think Matt Campbell did more, said more to solidify that in this one. Zach, we're going to talk about some of the most important things that Matt Campbell said. I want to talk about the things we loved and the things that we learned. All right. So, what was one of the things that Matt Campbell talked about that you loved?
Well, this is less about the content and more just about his demeanor. He is the anti-Lane Kiffin.
Mm-hmm. And we
Like,
love anti Lane Kiffin around here.
my gosh. Well, and it's we were talking about this tonight at the dinner table. Someone was asking me, why should I follow college football when it's all about money and when it's all about NIL and transfers and whatnot? And this is a Penn State fan asking me this. And I said, because college football is still won based on the character of your coach and the love for their players. Strip everything else away. Brian Kelly is a perfect example of this. He left Notre Dame, which was admittedly not as high profile of a program athletically than LSU. LSU just won a national championship in 2019. Brian Kelly said, I can't win a national championship here. I'm going to LSU. He went chasing. He tried to fake a stupid Louisiana accent to endear himself, but he was faker than anybody. And people saw right through him. And you know what? He got fired because he didn't love his players. He didn't care about the program. He cared about him. Matt Campbell, that dude loved Iowa State. And he got me to want to run through a freaking brick wall with his emotion, with his commitment, his decision within 24 hours or whatnot to I'm hiring Terry Smith. That's my first move. Dude, I don't care about anything else. Like maybe this works, right? We'll see in 3 years. Like if he wins a ton of games. But right now, I could not be more impressed with this guy.
Yeah, and it just how much he emphasized family and everything. I don't think that, the story of Penn State football and, people having to come together with kind of some of the adversity that Penn State football has faced. And I think that Penn State gets too much grief, the program themselves and stuff like that. The program is trying to recover from some hard times in their past, and they've had to come together a whole lot to make that happen. Who do you rely on in adversity and tough times? It's your family. And Matt Campbell talked about how, to be able to have his mother and his father like 2.5 hours away and his family close, home for them was Iowa State for a while, but they are moving closer to home now to Penn State. It means a whole lot to him, and he wanted to make sure he did it at a point in time that it was right for his family as well. And I just think that is one more thing that just makes him the perfect fit for Penn State. This would have not felt right if it was Kalani Sitake. And this is not a shot at Kalani Sitake, but this would not have felt right with him coming over from BYU. I mean, that's his home. Like that makes sense for him. It's where he played, it's where his religion is, everything else. Like that makes sense for him. It would not make sense over here at Penn State. Matt Campbell, he's from Ohio, but he still, is around the Midwest, knows Pennsylvania very well. And he had, Cale Sanderson, the wrestling coach that came over from Iowa State as well that he's talking about. I mean, he has connections, and it just reminds you how important this hire was and how, Pat Kraft did a great job of pivoting. I wouldn't have liked, I would have liked it to not be a pivot. I would have liked for this to be the guy from the very beginning, but obviously there's stories out there now about the agent and stuff like that. So give Pat Kraft some, a little bit of leeway there, I suppose. But overall, I think it's great. I think he fits the culture and everything else of Penn State. And then on the Terry Smith stuff, for him to say basically first and foremost, I want Terry Smith here. He's going to be critically important, is what he said to them. His character, his leadership, and his deep knowledge of Penn State. It sounds like Matt Campbell's ready to come in and ready to learn from Terry Smith. He's not ready to come in and say, Terry Smith, I'm going to tell you how it is. He's ready to come in and learn from Terry Smith.
Yeah. The other thing that impresses me, I mean, you can tell that he loves that he has this opportunity, and yet he hates who he had to leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not being Lane Kiffin and being like, well, Ole Miss, like, whatever.
Yeah, he's not saying, get on the plane or you're not coming with.
Yeah. Like, he's like, I mean, weeping, man. Like, genuine tears of, and it wasn't just what he accomplished there. He wasn't a walking resume. He was talking about the people, the players that he got to lead, the players that, in his words, that trusted him and believed in him as a coach. And again, you don't know if this is going to work out long term, right? Like you really don't. But man, if I'm a Penn State recruit or like someone who's thinking about transferring, and you're listening to him speak, like, doesn't that, like, him talking about that, doesn't that make you want to stick around?
You would think so.
And I know they have a lot of work to do in the 2026, like, first signing day came and went and they're in the dumpster, right? But I just wonder if the transfer portal is going to be a really good cycle with a guy like Campbell. And I think the 2027 class, while it may not be a super powered class, he wants to stay local. He wants to, 6 to 8 hour radius was his focus with recruiting.
Get to that in just a second. We'll get to that in just a second.
But like, yeah, I'll just say, I think his demeanor, his posture, and his obvious care is such a win.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I had 2 more things that I loved. Did you have anything else that you loved?
A lot, but you go ahead.
Okay, maybe mine will coincide with yours. I loved that he talked about his his past at a championship program at
Yep.
Mount Union. I think that it is so important in today's day and age that if you have championship expectations, you hire somebody who has been there before. And I think that is one of the mistakes that teams make when they hire coaches is they hire coaches to say, "Hey, you haven't been there before. We'll be the program to get you there." For being honest, it's the coach that gets the program there. Yes, maybe the program has won a championship in the past, but like you said, Brian Kelly to LSU because LSU has won a national championship doesn't always get you there, right? There are very
Mhm.
few programs that have that just championship DNA to be able to drag a coach there. LSU did it with Ed Orgeron, so I'm not trying to say it can't happen there, but more often than not, you want to hire somebody who has championship DNA. He had it as a player. He had it as a coach with Coach Karras, sorry, there at Mount Union, and I think that's really really important. I I've been clamoring somebody needs to hire the Indiana coordinators. They have that DNA in them. I know they haven't won a
Mhm.
championship. Well, they've won a Big Ten championship yet, but they have that in them, and I think it's so very important to hire that. And so I appreciated Matt Campbell talking about his championship DNA.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was good.
yeah. And then the other thing, yeah, the last thing I loved, and then you can mention one or two other things if you have any. Pat Kraft spoke on the leaked audio. Credit to the Penn State reporter that asked about that. I did not think we were going to get that question in this press conference, but we did. And credit to Pat Kraft. I love that he didn't just say, "I'm not going to talk about that. Leave it alone." Like he got up there and he had a heartfelt response, and he said, he apologized. He said he was embarrassed, and as much as I don't think he should be embarrassed, there were definitely things he said in there that he did not want to be public. Michigan, Oregon, some of that stuff in there. But I loved that he is somebody who is willing to speak to his players with what he thinks. The player betrayed him, and whoever that player is needs to not play for Penn State ever again. I don't
Yeah.
know who it was, but that player should never show his face at Penn State ever again unless there is a deep apology that shows honest remorse for what he did, because that was terrible for him to record that and to put it out there. But for him to be willing to go to his players, I understand it probably wasn't the best way, but he was raw, he was real, and he was speaking what he actually felt to his players, which I don't think you get enough in college football
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly don't love how he
Yeah, I'm
went
not
about it.
endorsing the F bombs and
Yeah.
everything else, okay? But I do
Yeah.
I do appreciate the passion, and I do appreciate his willingness to, speak with actual care and emotion to his players.
Yeah. And he owned it. Like
Yeah.
he owned it, and yeah, that's all you can ask for.
Mhm.
So yeah, this has not been a great 2 months for Pat Kraft, but I think the way that he responded was very good. And again, we can talk about all again, the process. This feels like a recurring theme right now, like CFP, Penn State hiring process. The process was terrible, but the result was good. And in this case, it really like this could redeem it all.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Anything else you loved from the press conference before we get to what we learned?
I mean, a lot of what I learned is what I loved. So maybe we can transition.
Okay, let's transition to what we learned then. What was the biggest thing you learned from this press conference?
I mean,
Whether it's
I
about
think,
Matt Campbell, about the program, about Pat Kraft, whatever you want. Take it whatever direction you want.
yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things. One, they're kind of all lumped together, but you mentioned it before about his desire to be around family. And, he mentioned that this could be a place where he retires. To me, that's encouraging because he's not looking at Penn State as just another stepping stone. He is looking at this program as his destination, and not just a destination to win, but a destination to build a community, to build relationships. And, I appreciated this is something Ryan Day said on the Big Ten championship pregame, where it's like you've got to win games so that you can stick around to impact people. And I thought that was really insightful, because if your why is just to win football games, again, at some point people see through you and they will not want to be around you. And it is very clear Matt Campbell wants to be around not just to win football games, but to have an impact in State College. And like, if we're honest, I think that's why James Franklin stayed so long at Penn State, because I think he's genuinely a good guy. And I think he really wants to impact players. He just got stale. But I think similarly, Matt Campbell wants to elevate this program. And more importantly, he wants to finish the next chapter of his life here. And I think with that, his focus is local, his recruiting. He's like, I know where I need to go, right? It needs to be 6 to 8 hour radius, which I don't think he said it specifically, but what's in that 6 to 8 hour radius? Ohio, New Jersey, DMV,
Virginia, New
Yeah.
York.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's some good players in New York nowadays. I mean, I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
like, Florida or anything like that, but there are some good players out there in New York.
Yeah. But if he locks down the DMV, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and can cherry pick some kids from Ohio,
That's where it's going to be really important to do the evaluations that he talked about, right? Did you
Yeah.
catch that with the general manager stuff?
I didn't. What did
Yeah.
he say there?
You go ahead and finish what you were talking about, and then I can talk about the general manager.
Well, no, because that was where I think.
Oh, leading into it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things I learned was that basically Derek Hooger, I think is how you say it, not Hoosier, Hooger, I think is how you pronounce it. He is going to be the associate athletic director of football operations, which is essentially your general manager. There at Penn State, they did not make an official announcement, but he did everything he could possibly do to indicate that he would be the general manager there. And I loved his story about Iowa State, and I learned about that. I did not know the story of them basically having to create their own NIL place, and everything, and him basically writing every single contract for players. Like this guy going out here and doing this stuff, being a GM, being gritty, working from the ground up. I think that means a lot. And I think it means a lot that he's bringing him with him to Penn State. Yep. Now, this is a different level, right? You need to go out and find really, really good talent, but you also need to do solid evaluations. At Iowa State, they were probably doing solid evaluations, but they weren't going after 5-star talent. You don't need to land every 5-star at Penn State, but you do need to go after the Kevin Browns, the Joey O'Briens of the world. You do need to go after those guys that are 5 stars, if not fringe 5 stars, and try to lock them up. And so I think this whole idea of somebody coming in, this Derek guy coming in, being gritty, doing this stuff before, him working through this stuff. I learned that. I loved it. And I think it's going to be great for them to really focus on evaluations as well, because there are really good players in Ohio. There are really good players in Pennsylvania. There are really good players in Virginia that are 3 stars. And you best believe that Kirk Cinetti is doing a really good job of finding those guys. And that's where the edge is in college football right now. The edge is not go out and pay the 5-star the most money. We see how that's worked out for Miami. We see how that works out for, some other programs out there. The edge right now, get the top tier players you need, pay them very well, but then also go out and get the 3 stars that should be 4 or 5 stars, because they're not being evaluated properly, or they're not going to the camps. Go out and find those guys. And I think that at Iowa State, he's done a very good job of practicing that. And I think he can continue to do it at Penn State.
Yeah. Well, and the guys that are underrated and fit your culture, which is like what we're seeing at Indiana. I think even the high profile programs that are getting these players, a lot of player retention is based on cultural fit.
Mm-hmm. And you see Georgia right now trying to work that way too. Georgia is pivoting currently from what they always did with just try to get the best players. And now they're getting players that don't fit their culture, who are very highly rated players, and they're passing on them because Kirby Smart is noticing that he has to be more of a culture guy than he has been in the past. His culture in the past has not been bad. His culture in the past has just been like crazy, energy and everything. But that's not always the best, as evidence of seeing how his players have demonstrated themselves on the roadways. I think I'll leave it at that.
Whoops.
But I do think that he is kind of continuing to rework that as he sees the success of Indiana, the success of Ohio State with them doing their recruiting, and I think that Matt Campbell can bring a similar thing to Penn State, and I think that'll be very, very good for them.
Mm.
So, anything else that you learned, Zach?
Probably, but
I was gonna say I got a couple more things. Go for it if you.
No, you go ahead.
Quick with them. Okay,
you go ahead.
Quick with them. I think we're inching closer and closer to find out what this coaching staff is going to look like. A lot of talk about John Haycock coming over from Iowa State, but there was also a lot of talk about him retiring when he was, still at Iowa State. So I think we may have got a hint that Jim Knowles is going to stick around on this staff. Matt Campbell said, word for word, if you're going to build a championship team, you better have a championship staff. Zach, has anybody on that staff won a national championship before?
Begrudgingly, yes.
I know you're not the biggest Jim Knowles fan in the world, but I think Jim Knowles can be a good coordinator with the right kind of head coach that, reins him in and doesn't let him kind of go too mad scientist crazy. Because Jim Knowles, you cannot deny Jim Knowles is a good football coach. He did it at Oklahoma State. He won a national championship at Ohio State. Can he get a little too far out of the way? Yeah, we've seen it this season. But we also saw this defense simplify. They've won their last 3 games, and who knows, they might win their final 4 games of the season as well, and that would be really, really important for Penn State. And you might just see Jim Knowles on the staff again next year.
If he's on staff, you've got to, I think you're right. You've got to rein him in. I don't know if I love that though, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Haycock comes over. I thought I saw somewhere where he was.
Some people were saying he's like an analyst or something like that. Sorry, go ahead.
I thought I saw somewhere where Knowles is not like he's not being retained.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think anybody knows for sure yet. I'm not seeing an official report from anybody super credible, so we'll see. So, anything else you learned?
If I did, I'll probably remember it tomorrow. So, I'll just say this. I already knew I liked Matt Campbell. What I learned is that I really love Matt Campbell and I really hope he succeeds. I know that's not great analysis, but I don't know if you could have aced a press conference more than he did today. I thought it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal first step. I know you don't win with a press conference, but
you can win over people with a press conference.
Yeah. And I think that's, if you're a Penn State fan, like, I think you should be really, really encouraged that this is your new head coach.
And I think you should be encouraged because it sounds like if all goes well, he could be there for a long time. And ultimately, that's what Penn State wants. Yeah. Penn State doesn't want a new coach every 5 years. Yeah. Penn State wants a coach that's going to stick around and be there for a while. That's why they stuck with James Franklin as long as they did. That's why they stuck with coaches in the past for a very long time. This is a program that wants connection together and long tenured head coaches.
Yeah. And this, to that point, the big question was, would they hire a coach that justified them getting rid of James Franklin? There were a lot of coaches that were in this conversation where I'm like, that's a bad hire for firing James Franklin. This was a phenomenal hire, especially contextually. Like, and no disrespect to James Franklin, I think he's actually going to do really well at Virginia Tech. Like, I think Virginia Tech competes for the ACC in the next 2 years, if not next year, because the ACC stinks. But
yeah,
like, this Matt Campbell might be the guy that gets Penn State to that next level. Like, I really do think that.
I think the most important thing is just keep being a top tier team in the Big Ten, and eventually things are going to roll your way, and you're going to have your opportunity to win a national championship. And I think Matt Campbell can do that. I think he can keep them in the top tier, or at least at the very least around the top tier, and that would be a good opportunity for him. So great hire. Looking forward to it. Zach, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, this is I'm really excited for Penn State. Really excited.
Me too. All right, good stuff. Thanks, Zach, for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening, whether you're on podcast or YouTube. Please do give us a like, subscribe, 5-star rating, and review on podcast. Always helps us out. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time